Well, another thing that most PGA Tour players do is they have their eyes pretty darn close to directly over the ball. So if you can see that this orange line is perfectly cutting that ball in half, you must have your eyes pretty darn close to directly over the ball.
Oh yeah, it's very centered. Wow.
And it's a very personal thing, putting. It doesn't have to be directly over the line. There's certainly some people that have their eyes significantly inside the line on this side of the line.
Get it.
Very few people are going to have their eyes
There you go.
on this side of the line. Very few.
Now send it.
Now, how far forward? Like, sometimes I'll pick a patch of grass out here, and I'll get set up. Is it okay to just keep looking at that even during my backswing?
Of course. Whatever's most comfortable. Putting is super personal. Whatever works for you, I highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm staring at this when I'm hitting.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever gets you to focus on what you're trying to do instead of the stroke. As soon as you become fixated on, I got to create a perfect stroke, you're kind of hosed. You want to keep the big picture in mind. You're trying to roll the ball into the hole. You're not trying to stroke it a certain way.
Right.
So to me, by looking ahead of the ball, that's kind of a form of abstraction. It's, you know, I'm trying to see where I want this ball to go. That's tied to what you're trying to do instead of trying to swing the putter a certain way. Excellent.
I'm cured.
Alignment's a big part of it. It's a golf. I mean, putting is pretty much two-dimensional. If you can get set up with your aim properly, it makes it a lot easier. And then this is there's a million different mirrors out on the market.
Oh, mirror.
Mark, could you try this bad boy?
Okay.
And just look and see. Hey, Steve. We're rolling the rock.
So what am I looking at here?
So just try to find what feels comfortable to you. You're going to see your eyes either directly on that line, slightly inside the line.
Oh, right, okay.
And that way, if you set up with this thing before you play golf in the Dominican Republic, or if you're playing here at Westdale, you know that your setup is pretty consistent every time. That's the name of the game with the mirrors. Almost all the PGA Tour guys got the mirror out before their round, just to make sure that little fraction of an inch, if they're standing too close to the ball, too far away from the ball, it'll change the way that your arms swing the putter. So if you set up your machine consistently every time, it'll be a little bit more consistent. Excellent.
A little above it.
And it goes into more confidence too. Once you start to feel these patterns and feel square, and you associate that with being right at the hole, you start to realize that being set up properly is a huge part of confidence. And then you just start rolling them in.
On the other side. I'm way up.
I see mine
right there, really.
There's no right way to do it, for sure. It's whatever, just keep it consistent.
Wow.
Hard to argue with the results. So last week we talked about green reading. That gave us sort of the sense of how to aim our machine. And then we're talking about some of the principles of a consistent ball rolling machine. We want to barely hit up on that thing. It's a little negative dynamic loft. Got to have it aimed somewhere near the target. You want to set it up consistently. Excellent. So this is all well and good in a vacuum, right? So there's no pressure here. If you miss, no big deal. So how do we kind of create simulated pressure? That's sort of the next art of putting. So once you've got your machine kind of dialed in, now you got to recreate some situations on the course. And the first way that I recommend is just, you've seen it on TV a million times. The pros come out of the locker room and they've got their caddy has already set up a clock drill for them here. 3 to 5 footers around the hole, and you go around it. As soon as you miss one, you got to start again. And so you got to make consecutive 3 to 5 footers around the hole until you can, say that I've done what I need to do to prepare. So in the last couple of putts, you start to feel a little bit nervous.
Right, that your pressure's on.
Yeah.
It builds pressure.
So, but the kind of secret sauce is like, okay, so what do we do? Are we doing this just to feel pressure? And the answer is, on a higher competitive level, you're doing it to remind yourself what your priority is when you're doing the clock drill. Your priority, like we said earlier, is focusing on what you're trying to do, not working on the stroke so much. The tendency on this is to be like, holy shit, this is my 7th putt. If I make this, then I get to quit doing this stupid drill. But the discipline and the real secret sauce is saying, no, that's the wrong headspace. The proper headspace is, I want this ball to enter left side, because I'm going to get out of here much faster if I have the discipline to stay with what I'm trying to do, instead of like external result-oriented stuff that you can't even control. You can't control if you make the putt or not. All you can do is control your input. Control a good visualization, and just remind yourself constantly, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to roll the ball into the hole. I'm not trying to do it so I can be done with this drill. That's a good one. Another cool one that I doubt that you guys have seen before, because I had never seen it before, is you get 8 or 10 golf balls, and if you're like a pool player or a billiards or snooker or whatever, this is kind of a super cool drill. So you start out with about a kind of a long putt, 30 footer, and you've got 8 or 10 golf balls, and the goal is to 2-putt them all. The twist is that if they touch each other, it's a penalty shot, and the stymie rule is in effect. So the theory is, I got to create a clock drill first, and then I got to make them all after that. So from here, we're trying to visualize like a big 3-foot circle around the cup. I'll move all the gizmos and give y'all all a shot at it. So try to
make it within 3 feet.
The first couple putts you try to make, and then you kind of see where they fall.
Right.
And then from there, all of a sudden we're working on positioning and speed and alignment and everything, and it helps you to kind of visualize where you need to put this ball to be successful. All right, so that's going to be a difficult 2-putt.
Wow. I'm looking at the inputs. Yeah.
Problem with practicing putting a lot of times is it's so boring. So if you can come up with things like this that are pretty challenging and a little bit outside the box.
Oh, too soft. Way too soft.
Start with a big hop.
Yeah, hopped it. Wow.
That was a weird break.
That's a good
break.
Here's a decent one. Or should I be moving?
So tell me what you want to do with this golf ball. Where do you want to aim? Where do you want it to end up?
Within, setting up for my second putt, so within 3 feet.
Okay, but given the current situation, imagine you got to shoot this ball through those two without moving it.
I see. So we're working from the outside in.
Yeah, you got to work from the outside in. Stymie
in that
rules.
case, I'm going to put this one a little further
Okay.
left.
All right. So let's visualize that. That's sort of the purpose of the drill.
2 feet left.
Okay.
There, and, it went the same play. It was the same spot.
Oh, nice.
Okay, that helps. Okay, we've made one. Now we're one under.
I think I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would recommend that, sir, as a professional caddy.
Oh, you hit a
Not
ball.
the same thing.
No penalty yet. No penalty yet.
Almost.
Okay, you kind of got lucky.
Do I move to the ball or move the ball?
Yeah, I'm not too persnickety. It's just
Whatever you want to do.
wherever.
We're not out here. We're not playing
No
for money.
penalties here.
Same thing. Oh, making it difficult for myself.
All right.
Oh, it's
Yeah, you got a little asteroid belt.
Wow. I'll go far left.
Yeah, you got to send one far left so you have an uphill or up the hill. I think this is going to be a pretty good hard score to beat, though. You're doing pretty good.
Oh my gosh, I need to go way left. Amazing. Okay, last ball.
Killing me.
So this is kind of a visualization drill.
There's my left one. And it still goes.
Oh,
That would be all right. Oh.
Oh, a little drop one.
Okay, so if we're going to fast forward this drill, you're probably going to knock a few of them.
Right,
And you go over and over doing this drill, and then you say, oh my God, what am I going to do? So eventually you try to get back to that circle. You got to create a circle. You hope to get lucky on the
It
first.
ends if I hit a ball with this one, right?
Yeah, you got basically 2 misses available. You can miss 2 times or hit 0 balls. Okay, we got
So-
1 penalty shot.
one
Now you got to
penalty.
make them all without touching
I
another
gotta
ball.
start the farthest ball
Yeah,
back.
Yep.
That one.
This
That
one.
one.
This one.
That one should be.
No, that's right.
No.
Okay.
So what do we got to do to make this putt? What's your read?
Well, my read, I'm gonna be trying to hit it up right beside this ball because it's gonna break to the left.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put it as close to this as I can. Oh, too hard. Whoa! And then,
No big
Yeah.
deal.
Pick 'em up.
what was that? Is that my?
Missed 2. Let's see, sink this one.
Was it number
In
missed?
your
or-
defense, it took me like a dozen tries to get this the first time. It's not very easy. You actually had a pretty good start. Making one is super helpful.
Bring it back.
Some other household items that you can use down in on your guys' golf trip is grab a scorecard. I should have brought one, but I just remembered this drill.
Right here.
Grab yourself a scorecard,
Oh yeah.
set it up like this as a representation of your club face, and then just keep that scorecard looking at the hole the whole time. So it's just kind of another version of the wine bottle deal. But if this is the club face and it's always looking at the hole, you're going to have a little bit more consistent strike.
Okay.
Less rotation. It's a bigger face.
Bigger face, but it's,
So it's a bigger face, so you can kind of tell if it's twisting.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep that flush with the putter grip and like your wrists.
I really got to concentrate on keeping that.
Scorecard's better.
Scorecard's easier, yeah.
But you kind of get the gist.
Oh, yeah,
You
it
can
makes
kind of
you-
visualize in your mind's eye, is this
Yeah.
putter head going there, or is it
Right.
like tracking the
Yeah, 'cause if you
line?
move it, you're going to really see it exaggerated here.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
No.
But you
I
can-
failed
oh.
miserably. I
Yeah,
failed
Blair
miserably.
the putting guru. So we talked about hitting up on it with negative loft. I asked him, how do you
Putting
what's-
lesson.
What's up, gentlemen? Y'all playing through? Come on. I asked my buddy Blair, what's his favorite putting drill? He says, start out with the putter like barely behind the ball, 2 inches, and then train yourself where you can hit this thing pretty good ways.
Oh, just picking it up.
It's
and
like
hitting.
all forward swing.
Right.
So that's our upswing with negative loft. So if you start here and then figure out how to hit it, that thing's going to be gripping the ground as nicely as possible. What's up, fellas?
What's up, guys?
I'm Clay.
Clay Mark Johnston.
Mark?
Mark.
Jerry, good to see you. Welcome out. We're about to have a putting contest. You guys want in?
Sure.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. All right, we got 3 2-man teams as far as I can tell.
Like fine, yeah.
Let's get after it. I got Curtis on my squad.
Curtis, you traitor.
Oh, we got winners. Congrats, gentlemen.
Roll at it.
Nice
All right.
meeting you. Oh, that's a high five. That's right. Good call. Boom.
Good job.
Way to go.
Good job, guys.
Pow.
Showed it.
Curtis, that was a blast. Good putting.
Okay. Let me get out of
Fun
here.
hanging with you
That
guys.
was
Thanks
fun.
for coming
Yeah,
out.
thanks a lot.
Are you going to be able to make it next time?
I will, yeah. I'll be here.
You'll be here, Curtis? Awesome. Well, we'll talk about chipping. We'll talk about Little Poison, Paul Runyon's chipping technique, and the rule of 12. The rule of 12 is a cool way to pick a landing spot when you're chipping. It's kind of an educated guess on where you need to land the ball and what club you need to use to get it close to the hole.
So, Tuesday? Next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, 6:30 with the time change.